Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. I wanted to go through what I believe are the 7 biggest myths in bear hunting, especially bear baiting. And I'm going to go through them really quick, and stay with me till the end because a couple of these I'm sure are going to really surprise you. Let's get right into it. Possibly the number one myth in bear baiting is the belief that there is some kind of a best bear bait. There's like this secret mix, or there's just something that the guys who are doing really well just don't want everybody to know what they're using, and that there's just this one bait that if everybody would use it, they'd all be successful. It's just not true. The best bear bait is a variety of bear baits, because bears are individuals. Some of them will prefer fruity type stuff, some of them will eat the pastry, some of them love meat and so forth, and the things that you can put in there. There's just not a best bear bait, and so a variety is the way to go. And we need to stop thinking about in terms of trying to find what works. And when I do seminars, I get asked this question all the time. People say, does this work, does that work, and so forth. And I just encourage you not to think about trying to find something that works, but trying to fulfill the bear's nutritional needs so they'll keep coming back. So there isn't just a secret bear bait. It's just good quality bait and lots of it, and make sure that you're putting good food in front of them that's good for them. That's the secret. Myth number 2 is a big one, and it's a baffling one, but if you go on any forum, a bear hunting forum, or on Facebook, and you ask the question, what can I do to get my nocturnal bears to come in during the daylight, somebody will post this stupid answer, and the answer goes something like this: put something at your bait that scares the bears away at night so they'll only come in during the daylight. Like put a radio out there and play loud music to scare the bears away, or flashing lights or something like that. This is absolutely baffling to me, because I can't think of anything that's more counterproductive at a bear bait than scaring the bears. You're trying to create an environment where they feel safe, where they feel comfortable. It starts when you choose your location, to their approach angles, and thinking about where the bears are bedding and where they're coming from, and giving them cover to walk through to get to the bait. And you're trying to create this secure environment so they'll come in during the daylight and feel secure there. The last thing on earth you want to do is spook them at any time of the day or night. That's a myth that needs to die, and the people who think that that's going to work obviously don't know much about bear hunting and bear baiting. Another myth is that bear baiting is pretty much the same everywhere. Boy, that's just not really true, because bears eat different things and they're accustomed to different food sources everywhere you go. It's also different from the spring to the fall. It's different in the 1st of September versus the middle of October. And so the types of baits that you use have to be adapted to what the bears are accustomed to eating to some degree. And it's just not the same everywhere. And bear baiting is so much different in northern Canada, for example, where I've been hunting in places where the bears will pretty much eat whatever you put in front of them, especially in the spring. It might be grains, or stuff they've never seen before, oats, corn, for example. Stuff works great because they're in the spring up there. There just isn't very many competing food sources other than maybe a winter-killed moose or caribou or something like that. In the fall, here in Minnesota, there's a lot of other baiters, so there's lots of food available that way. Plus, you got acorns and hazelnuts, and in the northeast, you got beech nuts and different things that the bears that are competing with you. So it's not the same everywhere. You have to really adapt your baiting style to the type of terrain and the situation, the food sources that are available, and just figure out what the bears like and what they'll eat, and then keep giving them more of that. Myth number 4, where did people get this notion that bears have poor vision? Well, I got an idea on that, but first of all, let me tell you that the scientists have dissected the black bear's eye, and they've discovered that black bears have pretty good vision. Pretty similar to humans, in fact, except that they have excellent night vision because they have a substance called tapetum lucidum on the retina of their eye, which really affects their ability to take in more light so they can see a lot better at night. But as far as visual acuity, it's probably even better than a white-tailed deer, so especially at distance. So where did people get this notion that black bears have bad eyesight? Well, I got an idea, and I'll tell you what it is. Most bear hunters are deer hunters too, and they're accustomed to seeing a deer that if a deer sees you move or whatever, it takes off. A bear is not a prey species like a deer. A deer lives on the edge of panic all the time. When a bear sees you, he's probably more curious than fearful, and in fact, if he sees the movement, he might just think that might be something to eat. So whether you're in a tree stand or on the ground, a lot of people have had a bear look right at them, and the bear didn't spook, and so they think, well, he must not have seen me. I guess bears have poor vision. So that's where I think that particular myth came from. But bears actually do have pretty good eyesight. Here's another myth that I hear a lot. Many bear baiters have trouble getting bears to come in during the daylight, so they think if they would create competition by cutting back on the bait, maybe the bears would come in earlier. Well, I have never known that to be the case, and in fact, every time I've tried it, it's been counterproductive, and here's one of the reasons why. Bears have plenty to eat, and they don't necessarily have to eat what you're offering. They'll survive whether you're baiting them or not. So just cutting back on the amount of bait is only going to create a situation where a bear will come to the bait and find nothing to eat, and he's going to go somewhere else. It's a very dangerous thing to try because most of the time you can lose those bears either to another baiter or to another food source. And ideally, I've become convinced in 20 years of baiting bears that the number one strategy, the best strategy, is to make sure that every time a bear comes to your bait, he's rewarded with something good to eat. And that includes if he comes at night, because once he becomes reliant on the bait, if you're doing a good job of creating an environment where he feels comfortable coming in, he'll eventually come in during the daylight. So don't fall for the myth that you can cut back on bait and somehow create some sort of competition between the bears, that they'll somehow figure out that if they come in earlier, they'll get bait. It really just doesn't work that way. One of the biggest myths you'll ever run across with regard to bear baiting is the belief that bear baiting is somehow too easy or unsporting, and it's not fair in some way. Well, everyone that I've ever heard say that has one thing in common, and that is that they've never done it and they don't have any experience with it, because bear baiting is hard. It's a lot of hard work. It's really difficult to get mature bears to come in during the daylight, during legal shooting hours. It's just not an easy way to hunt, but it is a fun way to hunt, and it's most importantly, it's an effective way to hunt. It is the primary way that bears are managed across North America in most states and provinces, because it's not like where you can just walk around with a bow or a gun and see it trip over a bear and shoot the thing. It's hard in the northern boreal forest where bears primarily live. It's hard to get a bear in sight during the daylight, and baiting is the way. If we're going to manage our predators, that's the way we do it. So it's a lot of work, it's very sporting, and it is a really fun way to hunt. If you've never tried it, I really encourage you to give it a try. Another prevailing myth is that bears are not good to eat. Well, I beg to differ. Bear breakfast sausage, bear summer sausage, bear roasts in the slow cooker, bear loins on the grill. Bears are excellent eating, and black bears especially. If people have had a bad experience with black bear meat, it's typically because the bear wasn't taken care of well enough when it was shot. Now, keep in mind that most bear hunting takes place in the spring and early fall, late summer, when the temperatures are warmer, and bears have a heavy layer of fat and a thick layer of fur, and you got to get the meat cooled down quickly, much more so than a deer. And especially you hang a deer for a couple of days, you know, if you shoot one in October or November when the nights are cold. You've got to get that bear cooled down, get it butchered, and get it put away, and it'll be good meat, especially bears that are baited, because they're finished on greens and sugars. So what could be better than that? Bear meat is excellent eating, and if you don't want yours, call me. If you take good care of it, I can make some really nice meals out of it. Now, I realize not everybody's going to agree with every point that I've made, and that's fine. If you want to respectfully disagree, or if you agree and you want to give an example, leave a comment below and give us a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, please do. We really appreciate you being a part of this channel. So we will see you on the next video.